You're listening to the best Phillies sports show in the Northeast on Northeast Streaming Sports.
What's up, Philadelphia? We are back with another Philly sports show with my main man, El Parcero Philly, and myself, the Philly sports guy, here in beautiful Denver. I went away for the weekend, and I am still here. I was expecting to be home last night, and that didn't happen. So I am leaving right after the show, but I wanted to make sure to still talk to you guys because there was a lot that happened this week in Philadelphia.
And, well, just real quick, for everyone who is questioning, no, because it does look like the Philly sports guy is somewhat tropical because he does look like he's got a little tan. That orange glare is from all the Broncos gear that is surrounding him right now. He's drowning, guys.
I am going to do a quick little pan.
This is
all of the Broncos gear going on in this house. As you can kind of see behind me, I am in a Broncos heaven or hell, depending on how you feel about the Broncos. So, but it's I tell you, I've seen some man caves before, but first off, this is an entire house full of Broncos stuff, and I tell you, it beats a lot of the fan caves that I have seen over the years. So this is
it's Mile High. It's Baby Mile High Stadium.
And she has some stuff that like nobody has ever seen. Like she's got Terrell Davis Hall of Fame crunch, up over here. She's got Tabasco with the Broncos label on it. So it goes full bore on,
where's the Elway jersey
here. I'm sure she's got an Elway jersey somewhere hidden.
How do you not?
She's actually it's more. I mean, it was Elway, but there's also a lot of Peyton Manning stuff.
I was gonna say, okay.
So it's
two good quarterbacks.
Lots of stuff going on. So yeah, the orange glow is more on just the glow from
it's not the Flyers
stuff. Yeah, exactly. It's definitely not the Flyers. Although trying to find orange for the Flyers last night to do my stuff was very simple. I just had to find the orange. It was orange and the blue around here. So I had to make sure to do my stuff as we needed to. But let's get started off real quickly, just because it's just about the end of the first quarter with like 25 seconds left to go in the first. It's the Sixers are up 33-30. So lots of scoring in that first quarter right there. And I think they are led by Ben Simmons with 8 points.
Yeah, luckily we had Joel Embiid. He was questionable today with Tobias Harris. Obviously, we did not get Toby tonight, but that's okay. JoJo was able to get in there. He's got 4 points thus far. This is definitely not going to be easy. And after Saturday's performance, which we'll get to, you want to see a good performance.
Yeah, it amazes me that they have such a hard time with Cleveland. This is the second time that Cleveland has beaten us. And although it looked handily, like I was ready to turn, like I was watching via my phone and I was ready to turn it off. And then the next thing you know, they went into overtime. So it was good that they showed some heart and they were able to get back into that game, bring it to overtime. However, It's not like hockey where they get 1 point for the tie. It's so they still lost that game. And they were 11-point favorite against Cleveland. To lose to them, I tell you, whoever took the money line on Cleveland is definitely doing something. Made some money then.
That's true, man. No, I mean, look, there's always those teams like every year. Like a couple years ago, it was like the Magic. I think Magic a couple of years actually, but Cleveland this year, that's a team that frustrates us. And unfortunately, in this game, you're without Tobias Harris, and if you're the Sixers, you just want to go all out, right? You take your game to that next level. Is like, especially Toby's not here. I got to step up. Obviously, Ben and Joel did their thing. Ben had his 24, Joel had his 42. Like, honestly, you can't really ask much more out of your two stars there. Problem is, no one else really stepped up. Seth Curry had his worst shooting night. Shake Milton had the most points out of anyone else besides Ben and Joel with his 11 points. Furky, oh my God. There's not a Philly sports athlete more frustrated than Furkan Korkmaz. I'm telling you, there is not a Philly sports athlete more frustrating than Furkan Korkmaz, because one minute you think because of the 30 he looks like Steph Curry, but then the next minute it's like, oh, it's just Furky. It's just Furky. It's just so frustrating. And look, give Cleveland credit. They are, listen, when it comes to good teams, they show up and play. Sometimes when it comes to teams that are up to the level, they don't mesh well, but they show up against the good teams. They give us fits. Colin Sexton, Darius Garland, that's going to be the next backcourt. Next 5 years, I really like that backcourt that they have. And it's going to be tricky. It's going to be tough. I didn't really fully go down the whole schedule of the second half, which we finally got.
Right.
Which we can also start planning maybe some Sixers games here, guys.
I got the report today. They actually sent something to me directly saying, hey, after the All-Star break, that as long as the city
they sent it to you first.
Say again?
They sent that to you first. They're like, no, we got to
send it
to Philly Sports first.
So I did get notice ahead of time saying that they were allowing as many as 3,000 people. Now, of course, that's going to mean the teams and some of the concessions, security and such.
Right.
But I would expect that means that there's going to be about 2,000 to 2,400 people available. So it's probably going to be about 2,500 people fans that are there, and about 500 staff, from what I would expect between the two teams. And then they have to have all the writers and all the press that show up and such.
I would assume they would do it like the Eagles in the Union, right, where like they allowed the season ticket holders to get the first dibs, right, and then everyone else first come first serve.
So. I mean, I don't want to talk out of turn here. However, there was not a lot of people that opted in this year for the season tickets. So I have partial season tickets, and I did opt in. And I was early on the list, which is why I know a lot about this and what's going on.
That's good.
So it is very, very possible that because I told my guy, I'm like, listen, I says, I don't care when it is. What's going on. I want to be there for game one. I don't care who we play against. I don't care what we're doing. Get me a good seat. I only need one, and I want to go to the game. And so he said, well, we're going to do the best I can for you, you know what I mean? But I still have to go through the list and such. But it looks really probable that I'd be able to get there because of what's going on. So
we might have to do a Philly Sports Guy Parcero trip.
That would be a lot of fun. So I can get 2 tickets. We could definitely show up and do that and make that happen. So, but yeah, it's going to be exciting to be able to actually see fans in the stands in Philadelphia, because the moment that the Sixers do that, the Flyers will then follow suit. And next
opening day for the Phils.
And opening day for the Phils. And they were talking about, so out here, they're talking about having somewhere close to 50%, if not more, in the stands.
Okay.
So, and they're still in very similar to us back home, so they're in the yellow and hoping to go into the blue here very shortly. So it's been challenging for them out here in Colorado as well. It was one of those things where I stopped at a bar, a Philly bar, actually. We stopped at, and because I take my app out, and there's an app that kind of shows if you are a fan of a certain team, where the local bars are. And I found that bar, and it's right behind me. You may have seen my little TikTok that I made saying that look at this, and then look at this, and then look at this, and it was just So, and they took care of me out there. I went all the way to Denver for a schmitter. So it was a lot. It was a lot of fun, and it's been a lot of fun out here. So it's like I said, it's still in the yellow here. So they're operating it in some cases 25, some cases 50%, but. They're hoping that they're going to be able to have fans in the stands in a major way here as soon as opening day.
Okay.
So an opening day starts late here because April 1st, there's still snow. So the Rockies typically are the latest team to have opening day. They usually have 3 or 4 series away to start off because they want to have it closer to April 15th, April 20th as they can. Because it still snows. You know what I mean? It's still freezing here in, Colorado.
Love to see a game in the snow. you
Well,
imagine?
that's what they did. They did that a few years ago, and,
Really,
and
really?
MLB realized they're like, hold on, we can't have. I mean, I think they had to cancel the whole series because they got dumped on like 8 inches of snow.
Really? Okay.
Imagine sliding though into second base with
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean?
Any outdoor sport, I love like football and soccer outside in the snow. Those are some fun games.
Those are fun games. But with a baseball, it becomes a lot harder because
Yeah, it's
that ball
very.
could get lost in the snow. You could have an
That's
inside the
true.
park home run, just by hitting it just over the second baseman's head. You know what I mean? So, but that's just kind of the way that would be in Colorado.
Right.
So that's why for the longest time they didn't even have a team out here. I mean,
Yeah.
Colorado's a fairly new franchise.
97 expansion or something like that
something like that. Yeah,
with the Rays, I think. No, they didn't come with the Rays. I forget.
I
But,
think they did come with the Rays.
did they?
I mean, I think they came 1 year apart from each other. I don't know
Okay.
that it was exactly at the same time.
Okay. Well, but getting back to the Sixers real quick, because I had a question I wanted to ask you today, because this is, I think, the main concern for Sixers fans is the lack of depth, and especially lack of depth of scoring as well. Obviously, we know the bench has been struggling. What's your take, man? Like, should we make a drastic move, or like, what do you think of what's going on here with the scoring depth?
See, I don't think a drastic move is the answer. I think that they should pick up some pieces. I think they still need some scoring. I hear Reddick is maybe on the block, and I bet you could get him for a second round pick.
Expiring contract too.
You know what I mean? It's like those are the things that you want to be able to see. I want to see pieces come inexpensively, but not necessarily like if we want to try to make a splash trade, and try to get Beal or somebody like that and mortgage the future. I'm okay with that. But you better have a plan in place to be able to make up, because you want the three core to be around during that entire time. So if you're going to mortgage the future, for as long as the future is mortgaged, you need to make sure that the three of them are going to be around together for at least that time. And then you have to start to put in the smaller pieces behind them. And ultimately, like if you're going to trade Beal, are you going to be able to do that without trading any of our top three right now? I doubt that. You know what I mean? It's going to be one of them that's going to have to go, and it would likely be Simmons. But I don't like that idea. I don't like trying to trade Tobias. I don't like, unless somebody is going to go, okay, we'll take who was our first round pick? His name is
Tyrese Maxey.
We take Maxey and like 3 first round picks, and you could switch another 2 other ones that we're going to have, so that you'd have that, and every second round pick between here and 2028, you know what I mean, that you ever get will come directly to us. So if you're going to mortgage that type of future for Beal and keep, and then have like him as one of the starting 4, that's worth it. But short of that, I don't trust anything else anymore. I don't want to, like, what did I hear? I heard somebody saying, hey, why don't we trade this, and this for Kyle
Lowry.
Yeah, and I'm like, no. I don't even want him. He's a cancer right now.
Everyone loves playing 2K in real life.
Yeah, and he's one of the reasons why they are not going to do well in the playoffs. You know what I mean?
I will say, like, the deals are very, very cheap, because the Sixers, to me, are like a piece and a half away, in my opinion, to taking the Nets to 7-game series and beating them. Right? I think where they're lacking right now is that wing scoring. Danny Green, and we talked about this off air. Danny Green is great for veteran leadership. You're going to get 1 to 2. You're going to get 2 to 3 threes a night from him, but that's it. That's it. Like, he's not this athletic player that he once was. And but the thing is too, is that like we can't be too mad about Danny Green, because the trade really was just getting rid of Al Horford's contract. That's really was the whole trade. But however, in the starting lineup, there is a little bit of that void, because Danny Green lacks that athleticism, and all he really giving you is that 3. Seth Curry, I trust and believe that he will figure it out, but obviously, like, we don't know the player that well. This is his first season here in Philadelphia, so I think the Sixers really are just that one piece away. In that, to me, it comes in the starting lineup, and it's tough. Like Kyle, to me, Bradley Beal, I think that's off the table. But Washington's been playing better. He's already said he doesn't want to leave Washington, right?
Right.
So it would take like a ridiculous thing. It just wouldn't make sense. Zach LaVine, I would love, but right now his stock and his value is really high. The guy is balling. There's a reason why he got an All-Star nod. He is absolutely balling. Bulls are in a playoff spot too, surprisingly enough. Billy Donovan's starting to get that team rolling. They're a young bunch, and they're led by LaVine. So, and especially it's an expiring contract. You don't know what he's thinking. So, it's just tough. I think right now with the Sixers, you need to find a way to get a trade that makes sense. Kyle Lowry, I understand you guys want him. It's just that you guys got to remember that Toronto's playing good right now. So why would Toronto want to trade within their division? Why would they just hand Kyle Lowry to Philadelphia? That's their rival. And just because Kyle Lowry's from Philadelphia, he's not going to Toronto doesn't care about that. And Toronto winning doesn't help it either. So I don't know if that trade is going to happen. So Sixers are going to have to. I'll trust Daryl. Daryl, he might make a move, but it might not be anything crazy. And
he's like listening to my train of thought. Like it's not, and he ain't listening to me. Trust me, it's not like I'm saying, hey, do this, and they're going to say that the Philly sports guy's right. We're going to make this happen. I believe that it's that's the right idea for them to do. That's so, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think that this general manager knows what's going on, and he's going to be he's in tune with what's happening. He's in tune with the coach, and ultimately, there's going to be a real decision that's made. And I think that you're going to see those little pieces come in. So you're saying that they're a piece and a half. That could come in 3 half pieces. So and that wouldn't surprise me.
We should also take a look at Victor Oladipo. I forgot to mention him, but that's another expiring contract. Houston is clear they want to tank. They just released DeMarcus Cousins, right? And they got rid of James. We know they're trying to tank. So, maybe give them Maxey, talk to them a little bit, and I would take Oladipo. That to me is something I think is feasible. Give him Danny Green, give him whatever, really. Obviously, don't give rid of Shake or anything, but that's something I think we should explore for sure.
Right. So, and ultimately, unfortunately, there are going to be, when you're doing these types of trades, there's going to be some unhappiness that happens. So it's possible that Shea could go. There's lots of different things that could really occur to make all that come into play. So ultimately, it'll be interesting to kind of see. As of right now, they're up 7 minutes left in the second quarter, 46-40. And of course, they're playing against their old friend TJ McConnell, who plays for the Blazers. So
I think they have both Holiday brothers too, if I'm not mistaken. Aaron and what's his name? Justin.
Drew?
No, Drew's in Milwaukee. Justin and Aaron are in Indiana, I believe.
Got ya.
That's as far as the processors go. But when it comes to the Sixers and kind of not so much with the Flyers, more with the Sixers, I'm just really I want to just see them in the playoffs because the Philly sports guy, I've seen them play really good in the regular season. The question mark is, what does this look like in the playoffs? We finally have a coach, right? Doc Rivers he's up there with some of these coaches that are in the Eastern Conference. He's definitely way better than Steve Nash, and that's a good thing. That could be key come playoff time. But I just want to see them in the playoffs at this point. So I'm just ready. I'll go through this ride here with the Sixers in the regular season, but just get me to May. Get me to May.
Well, and that's what I think. I think right now we're in the dog days. You just have to hold serve here. Like I said, they lost to Cleveland, and interestingly enough, the Nets lost that night too. So they remained in first place by a half a game. I expected that I thought that was going to be, that they were going to be tied for first, but that didn't happen. So
I do think it's imperative though that they do finish first in the East. We just talked about fans in the stands having home court advantage after a year of Philly sports fans being deprived of real life sports. That place is going to erupt come playoff time. So I think we should.
It doesn't matter how many people are in there, too. Like I said, 3,000 people can still make a lot of noise. Trust me, I know, especially if I'm one of them.
Full capacity is going to be an earthquake.
Exactly. So like I said, I think that first off, I think right now they beat the Nets. I said that they were going to wind up number 2 going into the playoffs, and then they were going to represent the East. I expected much more out of Milwaukee, and Milwaukee's just I don't know what the story is. That they're talking about, up and down with them. I mean, sometimes they do great, and then next thing you know, they just stink. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it's the dog days. Let's get after the All-Star break, things start to happen and change. So let's see what happens after that happens. Exactly. The Ides of March is where everything will start to turn. So, and that's only 2 weeks away from now.
Sir.
And then let's, our team, wake up, Philadelphia, and let me hear you say the orange and the black, the orange and the black. They swept the week.
Oh, I forgot my broom.
They swept the week. Yeah, look at that. Starting on Wednesday, they beat the Rangers, and that was important, especially after getting beat by the Bruins, in Lake Tahoe. You know what I mean? It's just, and that was a little bit of a disheartening loss. I know people were upset about it. I didn't give it as much stock as we said last week. It wasn't as important to me, just because they had so many people missing. And then Giroux comes back, and he was the first one back from the COVID crew, and gets 3 assists that game. And then you see, I tell you, the one guy that I felt that we missed was Lawton. And and Lawtz is back.
Lawtz with the dangles too.
Yeah, and I tell you, what is up with that mustache? You know what I mean? I don't know what he's got going on with that thing.
Looking like hat.
But I tell you, if it helps him score, I don't care. Keep doing it, baby. You know what I mean?
That's true.
I tell you, when you think about what was going on with Oscar Lindblom before he got diagnosed with cancer, he was probably one of the best producers on the team. And I feel like Lawton has taken on that role this year, that he has really been over and above one of the better one of the guys who have kind of come forward to start, coming into his own. And Coots, man, I tell you, scoring goals, not something he typically does. And he's the one leading off the charge. I mean, for both of the games against Buffalo, he led off the scoring, so, and that's awesome to see.
Well, that line, I mean, you had it was a JVR, Coots, and Joe Farabee. Those lines were really dominant in the Buffalo Sabres series. All the lines really were. Both those games were really the Flyers dominated. That was like the first time I've seen the Flyers since the round robin. I could say the Flyers really this is the Flyers that I love. That's what we fell in love with in the round robin.
The biggest difference, a great second period.
Yeah, they play well. Yeah, it's crazy because in the both Buffalo games, third period, Buffalo had a couple opportunities, but still they clamped it and they said, "No, you're not scoring a freaking goal." And they got the shutouts. It was a weird week because the Rangers game, they got the win. It wasn't clean. Both sides had some mental mistakes, but the Flyers got it done. But then Buffalo series is what this team needed. And I told you this last week. I wanted them to have a good week just so they can get the ball rolling, get that confidence flowing. It's just playing hockey with the boys, And you started seeing that. You seen the smiles. It's crazy what a week does. It's absolutely wild what a week does. But I think we need to talk about one guy in particular. Mr. Carter Catahat, the real Catahat. No offense, Catahat, but the real Catahat. Listen, what a week does. Literally, the Sunday, the Lake Tahoe game, we're all down on Carter Hart. People are calling him the next Wentz. Then he misses. It was weird because he didn't play the Rangers game. He didn't play the first Sabres game. And I'm thinking well, Vigneault, I trust you, but with a young player like this who's kind of in the mental psyche that is not good right now, I would have wanted to see him on Saturday, but it panned out. He looked pretty solid. It looked shaky at first, but he played a great game. He got a shutout, 28 saves, and it's funny. He just needs a day after a bad game. Just needs a day off, and he just gets right back at it. But luckily, the Flyers defense has been looking much, much better, man. All these pairings have been pretty solid. Provy and Ghost have been a really good combination, honestly.
Right.
Travis Sanheim, I felt play really. I think he was. I would say he was probably the best playing defenseman over the weekend. Like he was active. He got after. He was really on that forecheck too. Like he was really outstanding on that. And obviously you got Brawny. I love Haig. You know, I'll always go hard for Haig. But no, it's just this is what we needed as Flyers fans needed this. They needed this week to just take that deep breath, man. It was a good week for sure.
Yeah. And real quick, I just see right now, 4:41 left in the second. The Sixers kind of took over this game, 61-44. So
Let's go.
Yeah, they are spanking them right now.
Go
and your man, who did you talk about that is so frustrating?
Fergie, what is he doing now?
13 points. 13 points tonight. He's got, it's funny that figure he must hear you talking about him, and all of a sudden he's like, you know what, I better play tonight because now they're mentioning me on that show. So
no, it's just frustrating because with Ben and Joel, like there's especially if they're on, there's so much space, so you're gonna have open shot. Hit those open shots. That's what your game is. Hit those.
Oh my Lord! As I'm looking at this, Shake Milton has also got 13 points.
Let's go.
So, like, Shake Milton and Korkmaz, both 13 points. Simmons got 10. So, and this is already with only 4 minutes left. 4 minutes left to go in the second period yet. So, before halftime. So, I'm just trying to keep everybody up to date on what's going on. Because if you're watching us, I appreciate that. You know, that means that we're keeping you from the Sixers game. But, you'll be able to catch the fourth quarter without a doubt. So, but going back to the Flyers, I'm still unhappy about their odd man rushes. So they've connected on a couple of them, which has been nice. You know what I mean? But they are still so, first off, and Farabee has been such a joy to kind of watch. But there's been twice now that I've watched him on a breakaway, and he's not paying attention to being on the breakaway, that he's got nobody in front of him, and he's trying to make a pass, and the pass has gone astray or has gotten knocked by the defense and stuff like that. You need to know what's going on. Like they don't seem to have the awareness that they are on the odd man rush. And like I don't know how many times I'm yelling at the television, "Hey, pay attention, guys! You gotta be doing those types of things." And it's like they're just not still in sync yet. And Ian, you are 100% correct. I want to see Gustafson is what his name is. Gufferson. I like that you that was like a snafu there. But I'd like to see him traded. I really think that he's more of a liability. And the fact that it used to be Ghost.
You don't like Gussie?
No, I don't. I'm not a fan of his. It used to be Ghost that was in that spot, and Gustafson is just he likes to throw those long passes that never make it. And it's, he's got a shot from the point, but he seems to play out of position sometimes. And
he's not a defender, really.
Yeah, and I really would I would pair him up, and every time I say this, I think that I think about Raffle. And Raffle being on the fourth line, and he really has done great there. That fourth line of Raffle, Bunneman, and Aube Kubel is really a great line. So I can't complain about Raffle, but I said last year that I thought that he would do better with another team. And then all of a sudden he started to perform in the playoffs. So I can't say that this year that Raffle should go, because I think he's been doing well. That fourth line has really done great for him. But I wouldn't mind seeing Gustafson, and maybe Nolan Patrick, and again, somebody else is not going to be a.
Well, hear these stats. Hear these stats out. 15 games played, a goal, 8 assists, that's 9 points. He's a +3 for the season. Like that's not good, but it's also not bad.
Well, it's also good goaltending that's really kind of covering him. I mean, because those mistakes.
No, he's a bad defender. Like he gets. So I hear you there. It's funny because on Saturday, Vigneault on the second power play unit, he put Gustafson with Ghost as the 2-point guys in the back. I thought
Right.
that was really interesting. The logic makes sense too. Like, putting as much pucks in front of the net, especially on a power play. I am seeing the Flyers they're very trigger friendly. They're more trigger friendly since
Well,
we've
this
done that.
week was, I mean, they finally got over the fact that not to stop looking for the pass. They
Right.
have to continue to put the pucks on net so the two Sabres games that all season long they've been losing the shot battle, and all of a sudden the Sabres games they crushed them.
Right.
They crushed them in shots, and they continued to put the puck on the net. And
especially when you have JVR, Kevin Hayes, Coots, like put those pucks in net for sure.
Exactly.
100%. And it makes it interesting too. Like Konechny's not back yet. And yet these lines are kind of in sync. Like after this week, I feel really comfortable with these lines. So what's going to happen when TK comes back? Yeah, we all miss Niski.
I tell you, Eddie, I don't miss Niski. I don't miss
You don't like Niski.
I tell you, he was good for the regular season, and then he became a turnover machine in the playoffs. How many turnovers did he have against the Islanders and the Canadians?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just so bad. It was so bad. You could tell that he was too old to play anymore. Right. So I'm glad it's hard. And listen, these guys have a lot more, I guess, athleticism than I have. So I can't speak like that. And I who am I to say, hey, your time is up? It's like Jason Peters, same problem. It's like, it's one thing for me to say, hey, you should retire, but who am I? You know what I mean? Right. It's like, you gotta do it on your own. So I really give some kudos to Niskanen to know that he didn't want, like, he's been a fantastic defender throughout his entire career.
He's got a couple pucks too.
And he saw kind of what was going on about, just seeing how, things happened in that playoffs. And that was, it ended. He saw the writing on the wall and says, you know what, it's time for me to maybe step away.
Right.
And I commend him for doing that, because that's not an easy decision to make.
Right. I will say, I think Niskanen, you're right. He was old, and we all saw it, especially towards the end of it. But I do think that him pairing with Provy for that season, I think it'll be very beneficial to him.
That's what Eddie's saying. Eddie
helped him in his development for sure. Those guys had that connection, and Niskanen really was taking him under his wing and trying to get him to where, because Provy, I think Provy's going to be a top 5 defenseman, and maybe if not at the end of this year, next year, he's going to get there. I really believe in Provy.
I think he is now. I mean, there's a good chance that he could,
I'd have to look at the league, but no, he's definitely.
I think he could win the Norris Trophy. You know what I mean? So it's like
pretty sick.
I mean, he's gonna be in the running for it. I mean, he plays the most amount of minutes. He's like 3rd in the league in minutes played. 20. He's like playing close to half a game. A game. He was on the ice for like 4 minutes. I think against Buffalo at one point. Took a shift off and then was back out there again. You know what I mean? So it's like in some cases there's so much that that he has been doing. And think about this. It's like Ed Snyder. If Ed Snyder was still alive, to have to say that a Russian was going to be his best defenseman, that's not something that I don't think he would have ever been able to say. But really, he has been, without a doubt. He's been our best defenseman for the last couple years. You know what I mean? So, and Ed Snyder hated the Russians. He hated the Russians. Wouldn't even when Detroit was doing so good with all those Russians and they beat us, back then in that choking situation, he still was dead against trying to get a Russian onto this team. Did not want him. He's like, I don't care. We're not going to have Russians on this team.
Right.
He did break it finally towards the very end of his life, but it was definitely too much. He was not going to do too much. But I mean, like I said, I think I'm still excited. I would, and I saw this over here too. I'm gonna throw this out there. Did we forget about Lindblom? No, I didn't forget about Lindblom. The problem is, we're talking about. We mentioned him briefly that he had a good year last year before he caught cancer. The problem I have with Lindblom right now is that he has not come back to that form. And you could tell that it's just, I'm assuming that it's going to take a year for him to really get back into the way that he was before. So it's hard for me to say I want to give up on him just yet. But, I mean, if he was if somebody wanted him, and Patrick and Gustafson. If I could make that trade and a first-round pick for Johnny Hockey, bye, guys. I would absolutely do that. And Johnny Hockey is not having the greatest season at all, but I think he'd be so much better here. Much better here.
I will say Lindblom's line on Saturday was the best line. With him, it was him, Lutz at the center, and you had Voracek. And those guys, that was their first game back. All three of those guys, that was their first game back. And they came back, and they looked really sharp. They all got on the board with an assist. I think Lindblom only had an assist, but it was a really nice assist to Lawton. But still, that line looked like the best. I think
see what 2 weeks off does. All of a sudden, you come back very rested.
Yeah,
that's what it was. I mean, same thing with Giroux. Giroux was all over the place. I mean, it was the best I've seen Giroux in a long time, actually. And I know that he never liked to take a day off. I mean, he had the longest streak as a Flyer, 300 and some games.
Right.
And to lose it to COVID, it kind of stinks out loud. But, ultimately, he came back so refreshed. He looked great. He looked like he was Giroux from 4 or 5 years ago.
And he was really grateful too, man. He was so appreciative getting back. He was talking about that too.
And so, and that's why I think so I expect a lot out of TK when he comes back. He's going to be back for Tuesday. I knew that he wasn't going to be back yesterday because I just didn't see it. Not for back-to-back day games. They just had a shutout. Why would you change anything of the lineup? And then you think about where you're going to put him. I mean, he's definitely got a lot more. So, I mean, is Bunneman sit? Ultimately, I know that they were talking about rotating forward linesmen and defensemen. They were going to cycle people in and out.
Okay.
Specifically because they have this stretch where it's 9 games or 6 games in 9 days. So,
well, you want to talk about this week? Sports guy, it's your favorite week of the year.
Oh, baby, because Pittsburgh, all them Pittsburgh fans, I'm coming for yous. Oh, yeah. I know they hate me.
Waiting for this.
They hate me out in Pittsburgh. And the Penguins, the crybabies out in Pittsburgh stink. They stink out loud. Crosby's going to be crying all week long. And unfortunately, the Penguins aren't even as good as they used to be. It's just they are, and now they got Hextall. So that was the signature. Hey, it's time for us to start to hit the reset button. I would not be surprised that just to talk a little bit about the Penguins and how I think they're not only going to. I think that this week, depending on how this week goes, will determine whether the Penguins are buyers or sellers.
Ooh, we could have a season right now, huh?
Yeah, and I think well, exactly. That's exactly correct. I would not be surprised if you start to see if the Flyers win this week handily, and it's 3 games back to back to back. So if they were to win these 3 games, you're going to start to see a fire sale happen in Pittsburgh.
Well, let me ask you though, as Flyers, do we want the Penguins to not be in the playoffs? Because think about it, they're probably going to be battling with the Islanders for that last spot, right? You would think it's going to be us, Boston, and Washington for the top 3. So personally, the Islanders give me problems when every time we play them. Even if we win, it's still a hard game. It's a hard fought game you win for. I'd rather see Pittsburgh in the playoffs, if I'm being honest here. But obviously, this is Pittsburgh week, and there's only a couple weeks out of the year. It's Dallas week maybe, and then Pittsburgh week with the Penguins. And this week we got them 3 times. So of course I want to get the win, but I have to think I'd rather have Penguins over the Islanders.
Well, and real quickly, I'm just doing my quick update at the half. 76ers 72, Pacers 55.
Now play 2 more quarters. Come on, boys.
So yeah, they're definitely spanking them. Joel Embiid's got 15 points in the game so far. So
how's Furky and Shake now?
Let's see.
Because that was an interesting score line or stat line you said.
Right. Well, yeah. So Embiid's got 15. Shake's got 15. Korkmaz is 13. Simmons with 10. 9 rebounds for Embiid.
What about Seth?
And for Seth Curry has got.
He needs a good game. He's got 5 points. Still second.
He had the first 3, and that was it. He's got 2 assists.
That was a bad game yet. So we talked about it. It was the worst game of his career. So needs a good night tonight.
Yeah, but Joel's got 15, 9, and 4 so far.
Let's go. I like that. Well, should we go down south?
Why not? We might as well hit up them for a little bit, because then we could spend a few minutes saying that hey, they started actually playing some baseball down there.
Good to see, man.
And I didn't get a chance to see because, like I said, they weren't showing much of it over here. And when I tried to stream it, all they were showing was the Blue Jays and the Yankees, and I just really didn't care to watch any of that.
So I don't know if you knew, but yesterday's game, the Tigers game, was not broadcasted. Today's Orioles was, which we'll get to, but that was very interesting. They didn't have the.
Yeah, so and I tried to do it on a private stream, and then they didn't. All the streams was only the Yankees game, so it wasn't able to. So I didn't watch any bit of baseball whatsoever. But I was following it like in the first. So the first inning they scored a run. I'm like, hey, they're on the board, and in the bottom of the first they gave up 6. So, and like I said, I had no idea who was hitting and who was doing whatever. I am getting some highlights here.
I will say, I mean, the only real highlights I got from it was obviously Adam Hazley home run, which I'm hearing Adam Hazley's playing much better in this spring training, which is good news because we all know we have an issue at center field. We have a competition a bit. And I'm hearing this. I didn't watch any highlights, but I'm hearing this Brian Mitchell kid look pretty good as well. But it's just obviously spring training, but there's some battles to be had. Mickey Moniak, I'm hearing, is looking good too, which is good news. I was very discouraged last year. For whatever reason, some of these young kids did not look good. Like Kingery, we talked about before. Spencer Howard got hurt. That was definitely tough. But yeah, Mickey Moniak and Adam Hazley had down years as well. So it'd be nice to see them bounce back.
And so I don't know if the Phillies have the proper coaching staff in place in the minor leagues. I feel like that these players are very underdeveloped. It takes forever for them to come up through the farm system. They always like to hold back a few things. I had somebody ask me if there's a center fielder out there right now who played for Boston last year. He was 283 and he's a free agent. He'd mentioned it to me. He's like, do we think we're going to sign him? And then I'm like, I don't think so. I mean, he had a great season last year in a third of a season, and he batted 280. However, he's going to want a few $1 million to go play, and he's a career 230 hitter. You know what I mean? So it was like, I don't know that I want to invest any money in that, because ultimately they all go back to the way they were. And it's not, you never get the player that he was like for last year. He's going to be the player that he's been all of his career. So right. I would rather see that happen from the farm system and work its way up. I just find that it's just, that the Phillies farm system is just doesn't produce the way it's supposed to.
Well, we know why. It's because we don't really care about it anymore. I mean, look at how we constructed this roster. You go back 2018, we call in the bottom, we overachieved that year, and ownership is like, hey, we're here. Let's go get Bryce Harper. When we still had some more years of developing. And then look, you get JT Realmuto. Great. He's the best catcher in baseball, but you sent over Sixto Sanchez, who might be he's in his first year last year, he looked like the real deal. Like, he looked like someone that could definitely help us out right now. And I mean, my love for Jorge Alfaro, the fellow Colombian, and he listen, every time we play him or the Marlins, he destroys us. I'm just saying, and he's a solid catcher. Like, he's a good catcher. He could definitely be a good catcher for a championship type of team, but like, we just don't really emphasize Jackie Brad.
That was the guy who I was talking about.
Right. I saw that too.
Thank you there, PS King.
It's just tough. It's tough because look, I'm like you, man. Like, remember when we won the World Series in 2008, the way we built that team, seeing those kids go up through the ranks. that's fun to watch, man. It really is, and it's just a different mentality now. We're thinking more like the Yankees. I mean, and that's a tough model to keep up with, though. That's all I would say about that.
Well, you know what? I feel that I feel like that's where it comes into play, where like Ed Wade was great, and then you needed the wartime consigliere. You know what I mean? Like that he was great on building the ranks, and then you got to get rid of him and bring it, because Ed Wade really built 2 World Series teams. You know, he built the Phillies, and then he went and built, Houston. And ultimately, he doesn't get enough credit for building either one of those teams because he wasn't the wartime consigliere. When it came down to it, he wasn't ready to go to war because he only knows how to build. And I know that the Phillies have him back in-house working on the staff. I wish he did have more say in that and picking up those prospects. And I'm wondering if he actually does work well with the existing president. I know that the president right now has got a lot more on his than McPhail did, and those guys. I wasn't a big fan of that whole situation. However, I feel that the new president is able to really. Again, he knows baseball better than these guys, and it's although analytics I feel is killing this game.
Yes, that's
it's
what I was
killing this game. I'm just so tired of the whole analytics thing, and there is a spot for it. There is a place for some analytics, but not the entire game. And
well, not to go too far off from the topic, because you brought up a great point about the farm system. That's one thing too, Philly sports guy. You don't really see a lot of teams emphasizing the farm system as much. I think what the Marlins is doing is brilliant, and I've been telling people that is going to work, and it started working last year. We'll obviously see what's going on this year, but why aren't more teams putting more emphasis on the farm system? Teams nowadays, it's this whole analytic bullcrap, a bunch of guys punching in numbers. Now guys just want to play chess and put together the best OBP lineup and put it out there for 162 games. Why don't you just develop these kids, show them the system, show them the culture, what we're all about here, build them up, have them come and play, and then hopefully you win a championship off that. But if not, get at the best time, trade those guys, get the best value, and keep that cycle going. But I don't know. Baseball is that's changing as well. No one really talks about that. How we don't really see much of these like great farm systems anymore. Like I think the Astros. I don't know if we'll ever see the Astros again. Really. Like if teams.
Well, you'll never see their trash cans anymore. So
I knew you were gonna go there.
But I as I'm thinking about that, like the one stat that they never include in any of these analytics, and I'm sure that there's somebody keeping it, but I want to know, like, the big thing for me is the amount of bases after you've gotten on base, after you've made the initial hit. How many bases can you get? So if you're hitting singles, how many times you got 3 other bases that you can get, and how many of those other bases are you collecting? Because the person who's doing that is the teams that win. And that's exactly what the Rays did last year, and they got all the way to the World Series. And that's, and so teams like the Rays and the Marlins and that have built up farm systems. You know what I mean? Same thing with Houston. They built up a farm system, and then they got rid of Ed Wade and brought in a GM that was ready to take them over the top. Bring all these guys up. Let's see what they can do.
Is that where the cheating came into play?
And then they made it come. So that's where I kind of feel like, so where the analytics ends, because they do all these other things, but they never do the base, the bases after the at bat. The bases after the at-bat is really what I'd like to see. Those stats are the most important stats. That's how teams won championships. That's how the Cardinals were so good in the 80s and 90s. That's why the A's were so good, because they had a guy named Ricky Henderson who would steal bases left and right. Now, catchers have gotten a lot better. Pitchers have gotten a lot better. But that doesn't mean – you think guys have gotten slower? The guys have gotten faster. So it's like those are the things that are important, and those are the arts that have been lost in baseball. And since everybody's trying to hit the 3-run home runs, it's like it's no longer. That's the problem what I have with baseball right now. It's no longer fun to watch. It's no longer interesting to me, because there's no real actual strategy to it. It's like, okay, let's get a guy on base. Let's get a guy on base, hit a home run. Let's not try to steal the base. No more steals. I mean, when I think of what was his name? Vince Coleman stealing like 80 and 90 bases in a season. Think about somebody who did that right now. If somebody could steal 80 to 90 bases in a season, if somebody could steal 60 bases in a season, that team would be winning a lot of games. A lot of games.
Other than Roman Quinn, we don't even have a guy who could steal base like that. But Roman Quinn can't even get on base, so it doesn't even matter.
Right. That's part of the problem. So, and ultimately that's just my diatribe for baseball. I mean, I love baseball. I mean, I still play softball. You know what I mean? I still like putting bats and balls. You know what I mean? That's still it's America's pastime. It's just I'm tired of seeing it past its time.
Yeah, there's a little more relaxing, like on a regular summer day. Head down to Citizens Bank, tailgate a little bit, get a couple drinks, and then just sit back, relax. There's no you don't have to worry about time. You just got you got 9 players out there, pitcher, catcher, and it's such an easy flowing game. I mean, obviously, the whole attention span thing with this generation is definitely tough, but just appreciate it for it's just purity. This game hasn't changed since like the 20s, 30s, early 1900s. So
right,
it's here. It's still here for us. It'll never go away. And exactly. Then we just want a Red October. We want good Phillies baseball. This city needs this.
What did I hear? That right now that it's you could find the line right now that the Phillies are 80.5 or 81. Or it was 80.5 or 81, correct, for the over-under. That's 500 right. Baseball, and I think that they win. I think you take the over on that all day.
The tricky part is division got better, too. That's
yeah. So I think that the Braves are as good as they were last year. I don't know that they got any better. I feel like Washington has decreased. That Washington's just got older. You know what I mean? They lost a couple of pieces.
Everyone's high on the Mets.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm not as high on the Mets.
No, I'm not either.
So, but like I said, and here I'll have that lead in really quickly to do our sponsor. Our sponsor, as you see on the ticker below, Philly Sports Trips. We're going to go see the Mets. We're at June 26th. I need to have this date up. I'm going to have this up next time we talk about it. June 26th. The Philly Sports Guy is taking a crew up to Citi Field, and we're going to go see the Mets. It's a Saturday. It's a Saturday night game, and it's going to be an all-day trip. We're taking the bus up there. We're going to tailgate all day. We're going to take over Citi Field, and then we're coming back home winners after spanking the Mets that day. I want to say it's June 26th. It's the last Saturday in June. Definitely, you want to book that trip, phillysportstrips.com. I mean, if you want to go on any type of sports trips, and now sports is coming back right now, it's going to be the time where you want to be able to start booking your trips right now because these trips are happening. We have the tickets, and as long it looks like COVID is decreasing, so we're going to be having these trips and they're going to be happening. So you want to get on board and check out. I've never been to Citi Field. We've also gone up to Yankee Stadium. That's going to be, I want to say sometime in July. It's right after July 4th. I'm not exactly sure when, but we're going up there. It's going to be on a Wednesday. So we're going to be doing it.
I will say I'm waiting for the MLS schedule to come out. That has not come out yet. But last year before COVID, there was a perfect time I think it was in July. The Phillies had a series against the Mets. The Union were going to play against NYCFC that same day. So in the morning, I was going to go to the Phillies and Mets, then go into the Bronx and watch Union and NYCFC. But obviously that didn't happen. So we'll see. I definitely want to make that trip. That has happened a couple times in the Union's young history. So that'd be definitely dope time. But no, watching baseball up there is pretty fun. Honestly, you know the culture. New York is big baseball city, so it's good. It's a good time to go out there.
Yeah, Frankie says he wants to come on that trip. Hey. Don't worry, Frankie. You're more than welcome to come.
That's right.
I'm more than happy to have you and bust your balls the entire game. Because I know that we will spank the Yankees that game.
No, Frankie, you got to come down here. What are you talking about? They come here, no?
Yeah, well, I think it's 2 up there, 2 down here.
Frank, you better get your ass down here, man.
Exactly. You should come down to Philly. You know what I mean? Get yourself a cheesesteak. You know what I mean?
Just don't bring no Patriot stuff or Celtics.
Yeah, all that food up there, it's a blah. You know, New York, the bread's better in Philly. So
what is Boston? What food is Boston known for?
Well, so he lives in New York. So he's a Boston fan. He's a Patriots fan.
Gotcha.
But he's really a New York guy. So he's a Yankees fan.
2 hours. Come down here.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about. He said he loved to come. So, and he says when the Flyers play the Bruins.
Okay. So, that works.
We'll see how that works out, because that'll be towards the end of the season, and that's when we're going to start having the Bruins number. You know what I mean? They've gotten our number up to this point, but they stink against the rest of the season, where the rest of our division, where we are smoking the rest of our division. So.
I'm curious of our audience here in the comments. Is anyone bringing up Eagle stuff?
There's not really much to talk about right now.
No, listen. I'm sick and tired of talking about the same crap. Like it's literally like how we messed up the car situation, or like is Jalen going to be our quarterback? And like you know me, I'm like I'll go with 1 week of it. Like let's just move on. Let's let the Eagles rest. But you know how the city works, man. They just want to know, especially now. Like they're so hurt by the Eagles. I keep hearing, like I listen. You know me. I love my Philly sports radio. And it's just like the same thing. It's like we literally are still talking about the same thing. Hey, shouts to the Wings. Yeah, and we got to get Devin on here.
We don't talk about the Wings until Devin comes back on the show. So that's who definitely gets to come on, and that's how we get all our MLL news. So
that's right.
Yeah,
we don't discriminate. We love the Wings here. We just need some more insight. We need more.
Yeah, in fact, I was talking about. We were talking about the Liberty Bells here that they have in Denver. There's a really good female football team, and Philadelphia's also got a female football team that nobody really goes and sees and stuff like that. So I got to talk a little bit about it this week. So it was kind of interesting.
You know, I'm all in on that.
And so, and of course, since we've talked about everybody else, I'm only going to leave, my man here, because there's only one team left to talk about. And they did have a little bit of news this week.
Yes, sir.
What's going on? What's going on with the Union? Real quick, see me. There's no more Soul. That league canceled. That
league dissolved completely. So,
well, that was because Ron Jaworski owned all of the teams.
Oh, did he really?
He owned 4 of the 6 teams of that league. So it was time to go.
Awesome. Well, I mean, pretty much with the Union, there's nothing much has really been happening. The league as a whole has been pretty quiet as of late, but the Union did make a signing last week. We officially have our first signing. This Union sign, we actually talked about it before. They were rumored with it, but it came official. We signed Stuart Findlay. He comes from Kilmarnock, right? Kilmarnock. In Scotland. He's center back. He's going to come in and fill in for Mark McKenzie's depth role. He looks pretty exciting. He's going to fit in really well here. I'm just watching him more and more. He fits what the Union trying to do. A defender who plays really well with the ball at his feet, and he's good on set pieces. So like on corner kicks, he's good with this, using his head. And he can hit a goal from long range. We saw 2 of them last year from Jakob Glesnes in the second game of the year, LAFC, that wild game. And then we saw Mark McKenzie in DC. He got us a game tire. That was pretty fun, but he fits this Union role as a center back. And really, only other thing really that happened was we finally got a preseason schedule. There's a couple important dates that's going to happen. So pretty much right now, the Union are in Chester or somewhere in the Chester area. They were indoors today, so that's definitely not Chester. I'm curious where they were. But they are from here until March 11th. They'll be in the area working out, practicing. On March 12th, we'll have both the Phillies and the Union in Clearwater. So that's always a lot of fun. They'll start their version of training camp. March 15th, we have our first preseason game, you could say, against Orlando City. That's going to be at 11 a.m. They're going to be on the Joe DiMaggio Field. And then the 20th, they have a scrimmage against the Chicago Fire, again on Joe DiMaggio Field. On March 24th, they return back to Philadelphia. And then they have one more scrimmage with an opponent to be determined. That should come out soon as well. That's on the 31st. That'll be at the Sub. And then April 7th, like we talked about, we'll have CONCACAF Champions League. We'll be in Costa Rica. The 14th, they come back. And then on the 17th is the start of the MLS season. But as I told you, that schedule's not out yet. So I'm ready for that. So you and I both can start getting ready to go to games. And obviously with Philly Sports Network, I'll get my coverage team ready so we can start covering these games the Philly way, the only way we know how to do it. But it's just right now, it's the calm before the storm. We're supposed to get 1 to 2 more signings. That was also announced. As expected, we're supposed to be getting Brendan Aaronson's replacement for depth. That should be a cheap option there. Someone who can fit kind of in the role of Brendan Aronson, a guy who's a workhorse. Brendan Aronson was a workhorse. That guy, if you watch some of his games, he would run the most. Like as far as like in soccer, they track the mileage that they run, and sometimes Brendan would be top. It was either him or Jamir Montero because they run back and forth and they do it often. They love doing that type of stuff. He's active on the defense, so that's really what you want to look for. Someone that can fit in that Brendan Aronson role. Because Fontana, this person is supposed to fill in as a starter. He's more of an offensive guy. That guy loves to get goals. So you need someone who's going to play both ways. So kind of like Coots, a little defense, little offense. You know what I'm saying? So, and then we'll see. I think that third guy we're going to buy is probably going to be a striker. These are not going to be expensive options though. So, but still, it's a calm before the storm, and before you know it, we'll have Phillies and Union back at it. Our summer sports are back, and we're going full circle because we have the Sixers, the Flyers, Philly sports guy. We're going to need a lot of. I don't know what you. I don't know if you're a coffee guy because I never hung out with you that early in the morning, but whatever.
I don't need coffee. I don't even drink coffee, so I'm always
You're gonna be busy.
amped. I'm always amped. So, all right, real quick, we're going to do our final 5. Something that we're going to start doing when we're not taking calls. The final 5. So we're going to start off right there. What do you think about the Watt trade? Well, Watt did not get traded.
Right.
He did sign, or he is going to sign because they're not able to do anything just yet. But he is going to sign with the Arizona Cardinals.
Interesting, man. Hey, DeAndre Hopkins definitely influenced that, right? That was definitely him. It's like, yo, JJ, come on, you want to come here. This is where you want to be. But it was a surprise, though, because we both thought that he would stay in the AFC. I thought Buffalo, Cleveland was something for him. You thought Pittsburgh. And he wound up going to the NFC in a semi-tough division. And it's interesting because we saw firsthand the Cardinals' defense when Jalen Hurts did his second start. Jalen had four touchdowns in the first half, 3 throwing, 1 running. And that secondary still has its issues. So we'll see how that secondary looks next year. But that's definitely a lethal pass rush. They still have Chandler Jones. Obviously, JJ's still JJ. So makes the Cardinals an interesting team.
Right. So I agree. I think that he's only going to help there, and he's probably a good spot. The Cardinals are maybe 1 or 2 players away from really being able to make that step. I don't know if he's one of those pieces, but right. I mean, he's only going to be able to help them go a little bit further there.
Unfortunately, this is kind of what we're going to start seeing more and more of. The NFL, you're seeing a change. These players are starting to take control of like the business side of things. Superstars, you're going to see more superstars come together in the NFL, kind of like what you're seeing in the NBA. JJ obviously now joining up with Kyler and DeAndre. You're going to see more and more of that. Obviously, I don't think Russell Wilson's leaving, but there's obviously it's a shenanigans going on over there. It's a little messy in Seattle.
Yeah, well, that's between Seattle and Houston. They got a little stuff going on there.
Oh yeah.
Question number 2. Philadelphia Fusion. Do you know much about the Fusion?
So I got my first dose of the esports world last year. The Union have the MLS has an FIFA league. So each team has a gamer. That's when Jay Ajayi was our gamer. That was a terrible experience. It was a terrible signing. But that was I went to an actual event, and it was my first dose into it, and I was thoroughly intrigued. It's definitely different. But I understand that the way our society is going, everything's starting to turn digital, and e-game is going to be a thing. So that
stadium's being built right now as we speak. They're building that stadium
right in South Philly.
And I it's still, I can't figure out the game Overwatch. It's still too much for me.
Right.
However, I was at the championship between San Francisco and Vancouver before COVID hit, and I brought my kids to it. And I actually went there as the Philly sports guy, doing interviews with people. I didn't get all painted up for that because I didn't know how to get painted up, but all I had to do was just get painted up because they have as much fanfare as there is like with me. There was a lot of people that were dressed up and going to there. And you know, it was even a Philadelphia guy who played on San Francisco. San Francisco was a huge underdog, and they went there and they just smoked Vancouver. It was like almost like unfair, it seemed, that they were just crushing them the way they did. And they got to split $1 million purse between 10 players. So it really was an amazing thing to kind of watch that, the guy. Yeah. Yeah, and esports is when it comes to here. I mean, the guy who wins the kid who won the Fortnite thing twice is from Pottstown. So he's like, it's literally esports is a really big deal here, and especially because Xfinity has got the biggest. I'll watch my language there. They've got the biggest following in the city, so to speak. That's why you're going to see this state-of-the-art stadium being built, and we're going to be able to see a lot more on the Fusion. Hey, the Fusion 2 years ago, where it was in the championship. Of course, last year they didn't make it. This year is going to be interesting with COVID, however. But we'll be able to see. So I know a little bit about the Fusion. I'm not E out yet. You know what I mean? That we'll talk more about that as they go, because I will go to there as the Philly sports guy for the Fusion as well.
Yeah, man.
Next question. How do you feel about Josh Gordon playing in that fans league? Now, have you heard about the fans league?
Yeah, Johnny Manziel's in it. I saw that.
Yeah, there's like so this is going to be where some of the has-beens, some of the wannabes, some of the it's like.
Well, I thought we had the XFL.
I don't know. This is like a weird thing. Like I thought the XFL would be where they would go, but this is also something different.
But this is arena football, no?
I'm not sure if it's indoor or outdoor. I don't know enough about it yet. I've seen that there's only like 4 teams in it, and they get to choose everything about these teams. So it's like literally run by the fans. So I'm interested to see more about it. I think that's probably the best place for him to go, because at least he won't get kicked out of that league. I feel like that he's. It's a shame. It's a shame what he's been doing with. You know what I mean? It's a shame just how he's been kind of stuck with that. And WTF asking this question. Do you think Alex Smith is going to get cut?
Well, I think for money-wise, it makes sense for them, right? I mean, you're not going to go – he's not going to be your starter.
They
need to find a starter. That's what they need to do. Between
who was the guy that's Heineke? Heineke, I mean, he's not their starting guy yet. And I heard that they were talking about – your
boy Cam.
Huh?
Your boy Cam Newton.
Yeah, that's who they were mentioning. So that's kind of what's happening here. So I think that it's going to be really difficult to cut him, but they're not going to have a choice. It's just there's too much money involved in that. And the last is not a question. It's going to be a statement. 5 minutes and 30 seconds left in the third quarter. 76ers 87, Pacers 63.
Let's go Sixers.
Yeah, they are spanking them tonight. They are spanking them hard tonight. And it's Joel's got 22, 11, and 4 assists.
Ciao.
Simmons is 14, 5, 2, and 2. And Milton is 15, 4, and 2. And Korkmaz 13, 1, 1, 1. So hey, there's a lot going on. So, hey, listen, guys, I'd love to stay on and talk with you guys all night long, but I got a flight to catch. I'm trying to get back home. And before that snow hits, there's going to be a lot of snow coming, I hear, real soon. So I want to make sure that this happens. So I got a call tonight. My man, El Parcero, I really do appreciate it, as always. Again, guys, thank you very much. We're just going to do a quick station identification, and then we're going to be out of here. Everybody, you guys have a good night tonight, and we'll see you next Monday. Hey, listen, Pittsburgh, y'all. Yeah. You're going down, Pittsburgh. That's right. Oh, yeah, baby. That's going to happen 3 times this week. Let's go, Flyers. Yeah. Good night, everybody.
You're listening to Northeast Streaming Sports. A group of independent podcasts came together under one umbrella to give you a network that streams from Northeast, New York, down the East Coast to Louisiana, and across the Atlantic Ocean to the United Kingdom. Northeast Streaming Sports streams live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Can be seen on Twitter and Instagram. Audio carried on Spotify with our own website. For the best sports information, updates, commentary, and entertainment, Sportscope, TGI Sports Talk, The Safety and the Sports Writer, The Philly Sports Guy, The Mac and Jack Sports Show, Stu's Wrestling Podcast, Four Stripes on Ice, Talking Baseball with Sal and Gioletti, Unscripted, The Big Shaw Sports Report, Frankie C Sports, Fantasy Football Face-Off, 12 shows and growing. There's one place to get your sports on Northeast Streaming Sports.